Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Curran, and I'm here with Dr. Kim Bynum. How are you, Kim?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. So you've been on the show before. We've done things together before. I've interviewed you before. So we're just going to jump straight into this, right? So people hopefully know who you are. If not, they can see it in the lesson learn. I'll put all your bio, connect to your website, all that great stuff. But let's talk about something that was really great that you did this last weekend. So basically, what we're going to talk about is never forget where you come from. Right? So tell me about your weekend last weekend.
Okay, cool. So last weekend was the infamous mother-daughter weekend, and this is a weekend that my family has been doing for the past 5 years. So what it consists of is all of the sisters and their daughters get together for a weekend once a year, and it's just a tradition that my family started to kind of reconnect and get together and spend a weekend having fun.
So to reconnect, get together, and have fun, but there's really a deeper meaning to what you guys did. And so let's jump into that because we'll talk about that a lot on this show.
All right. So first of all, let me give a little bit more detail about what I mean by the whole mother-daughter thing. So
Yeah.
my mom is the youngest of four sisters. So there are four sisters, and then all of them had daughters and sons. But basically, what we do is it's the four sisters and all of their daughters, and we're all adults now.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of the rule. So you can only do mother-daughter weekend. We don't bring our daughters. It's just the four original sisters and all of their adult daughters. And we get together. We get together at either an Airbnb or at one of the aunt's house. That's a big house where we all stay.
Yep.
And the rules are we don't go anywhere. We don't do anything. We don't have any structured plans. You're supposed to not do any work. You're supposed to unplug, although we understand that sometimes you have to hop on or whatever, but the whole point is just to be together.
Yeah.
Not with that. We don't go shopping. We don't go see movies. We just spend time together talking, and being together, really just being authentically together. And the purpose of that, when we originally did it, was because we all grew up together, I think, for the most part. But as we grew older, we all moved to different places and different parts of the country. And so the point of this initially was for us to get back together and spend 3 or 4 days just being together in the same space.
Yeah. So let's talk about that because we can talk about your core family. So your core family, right? With me, well, I'll use myself as an example. I have a mom and a dad, and I have two brothers, right? But we grow up, we go to college or start a job, we start our lives in whatever way. I went off to the military, my two brothers went off and did their different things. So we all go in totally different directions, right? And so, but in those totally different directions, we still communicate, but do we really communicate? Not really. I mean, we stay in touch, we talk and all that, but it's really getting to know who you are and where you came from.
So one of the things that we discovered as we started kind of coming back together is we realized how much we didn't know about each other.
Yeah.
Right? So we are family, and even my sister and I, we go to these weekends and we end up sharing stories about each other, or our moms will tell us stories about when they were growing up, stories about themselves, or about, for example, how their mom treated them when they were growing up. And we're like, oh my gosh, we never knew grandma did X, Y, and Z with you. And so it helps us understand why maybe our parents, our moms parented us the way they did. Um, and so on. For example, this past trip, it was my birthday. And
Yeah.
so part of what
How,
we did
how
with
old were you? What birthday was it?
I was 21 with
Yeah,
29 years experience. It was
absolutely.
the big 50.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And so one of the things that we did, just to give it a small example, was we played this game about how well do you know Kim. So we're a pretty tight family. We've been doing this event for 5 years. So we did a 20-question thing on how well do you know Kim. And my cousins and I are pretty tight, and obviously my mom, my sister were there. And one of the questions was, what is Kim's daughter's real first name. And my cousins looked at me in shock and were like, your daughter's first name is not Tess? You weirdo. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they didn't know that I had actually named my daughter after my husband's mom, who has passed away, and that her real first name was Beverly.
Oh, wow.
And so, just as an example, that's a superficial thing, but really, the things that we end up talking about can be anything from what we're experiencing in our life from that past year that we didn't get a chance to talk about, or what's happening that week, where we're at, with our relationships with our husbands, or and I mean, just anything that we're struggling with can be
Yeah.
caught up, or it could be something that we struggled with in our childhood. So there's laughter, there's tears, there's forgiveness. Sometimes there's
Yeah.
forgiveness of, hey mom, you really pissed me off when I was 8 and you did this. So it's kind of cool, it's kind of therapy, but it's always kind of reconnecting to who I am as a person. So I love it.
Yeah. So if you're 21 plus 29-year experience and you're talking about something that happened when you were 8, that's lived with you quite a long time.
And the other thing that's great about it is that it's not just, what I love about it is it's not just my perspective that I'm getting. So I'll be sharing a story, or somebody will be sharing a hurt, let's just say
Yeah.
a hurt that they had. But then, because they were there, your family was there with you, your sister, your cousin, the other aunt, so I can say, mom, you did XYZ. Why weren't you there for XYZ? My aunts, who were also there, can offer up their perspective and say, hey Kim, did you know that your mom was dealing with this? Or did you know that your mom, that our dad, your grandpa, used to do this to your mom, and this is why she reacted this way when you snuck out or when you ran away from home. And these kind of, I mean, so I'm just saying. And so you get a tribe, your
Yeah.
tribe, to kind of give you perspective, and you're just like, what? And then your mom and you are just looking at each other going, oh, okay. And it seems, it sounds a little hokey, I guess, now that I'm saying it, but that whole restoring and all of that kind of conversation, it's so powerful. And when you're with your family, hopefully there's the lack of judgment, or it's unconditional kind of acceptance. So that's kind of cool.
Well, you and I talk a lot about, in the things that we talked about, it really comes down to communication. And so, what you guys have been able to do is find a way to open up those lines of communication, because it's really hard sometimes with your family, to specifically, unless you're in a setting, and you are in a group therapy setting, let's be honest, right? But it's hard to open up those lines of communication and just to understand and know the whys, you know, understand the why. Why did that happen? And not to go back to the last experience, Patty and I talked about that a lot. Knowing the why. When somebody does something, well, why did they do it? Why did it happen? And so I think it's great because you're opening up the lines of communication and allowing for open, honest communication.
Well, we're definitely not like this Pollyanna perfect little family. I'm going to tell you that we've had 5 years to kind of work through some issues, and we've had some spurts and some issues. So what we've done is we've had to put down some battlefield rules and learn the hard way sometimes, where we've had hurt feelings or where things haven't worked so great. So like you said, having those open lines of communication and maybe setting some boundaries. And so one thing that we found is just making sure that everybody gets an opportunity to have, feel heard and have a voice, so that it's not just, if one person's really suffering through a tough time, that it doesn't become like the Kim show the whole
Yeah.
weekend because I'm having drama and baggage, so that it doesn't get, it doesn't
All
overtake
about
the
one
whole
person.
weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't,
All
that,
about
that,
one
that
person.
doesn't happen. And then, like you said, keeping it to the why and not becoming accusatory and not becoming like a blame game. I think that's important. So we have had to kind of be careful with each other, that it's all in love, and it's all in a situation of trying to be forgiving and helpful and to grow, not to be out of malice or ugliness.
Yeah, but those
So
ground rules are set going in. Y'all have established that going in, and I think that that's I think that that's so wonderful that you've established that kind of, you know, like you said, there's the ground rules, and the communication is opened up to hear that. But it's also good that it probably, you move from one, from Kim over here to Matt over here to, you know, whoever over here, so you're not just focusing on that particular one person for too much or too long.
One of the things that's like really fun is, I didn't appreciate this, is we do things like all of the favorite meals that I never really knew how to cook, but I always enjoy, like our homemade chicken and noodles, and my grandpa's homemade ice cream recipe, and my Aunt Patty knows how to make the peanut butter fudge,
Yeah.
and we have this candy called seafoam that maybe you guys know or you don't know about. But like all of those things that would get lost, like would be lost forever if we didn't come together and do those things. And stories, like stories about my great grandma that
Yeah.
I didn't even know her. Like I knew Grandma Bill because I have some bells at Christmas time that I put out, but now we tell these stories and these things that I know about, and she's a real human being to me that I can pass on and pass along, that make me feel grounded and rooted. And I know now, like why, maybe why I am the way I am, or I have that connection back to my family in Katanning, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
where, so those kinds of things that I think would be lost, that now I can pass on to, to now my daughter, and
Yeah.
I can cook those meals or tell those stories. And so I think that that's something that in our time of information and social media
Yeah.
and all that stuff, we don't take the time to stop, disconnect, and just sit around a table or a fireplace, as it was this year because we were in
Yeah.
North Carolina, or in Tennessee, I mean, and just be able to do that. It was really fun.
Yeah. Now that is so cool because I do think you're so correct. Like we lose, like, my kids don't know my mom and my dad's parents, and they don't know my mom's parents. They weren't born yet. And really all of the grandparents had already passed away. So they don't know it. And I do think there's such wonderful stories thinking back to my grandparents, and my kids know none of it. They know none of it at all. And I think just those stories and traditions and those things that happen, and just knowing where you came from, knowing who you are and where you came from is there's something to be said about that. And I don't think we think about that or really appreciate that in today's times, like what y'all are doing. I mean, I like I told you, I think it's incredible. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea that y'all are doing. One of my favorite stories, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories, like just a simple question. So, I was an air medical pilot, and this has nothing to do with my family, but it's along the same lines of what you're talking about. Is one of my favorite things to do as an air medical pilot, because I had no patient interaction. I was not allowed to interact with. I mean, I'm a pilot, right? I just fly the bus, uh, and get people from one place to the other. But what I would do is I would go in with the med crews, and when I would go in with the med crews, there's a family member standing in the corner, and this family member, so my med crew gets to work. They're working with the nurse or the doctor, and they're doing whatever it is that's going on. And it's normally an intense situation in a lot of cases when the helicopter is coming. You know, that we're moving that family member to the big hospital for a reason, either car accident, either real sickness. There's a reason why a helicopter's there. So I would take the time to go over and ask the family, hey, is there anything I can do for you? Do you know where you're going? Don't get rushed, because we're going to get there a lot faster than you. I'd get them direction to the hospital. But sometimes it would take a while. And I would always open up those lines of communication and just talk to them. Well, one of my favorite stories is this lady was there, these two older ladies, probably in their 80s, and it was her brother that was sick. And I got into the conversation with these ladies is, what is your favorite childhood memory? That's what we talked about. What is your favorite childhood memory and why? And they were talking about him. They were just talking about childhood memories. And then I said, because I remember asking my grandmother this. And I said, I remember asking her, what was your favorite invention? Think about that. What's your favorite invention? Right. Right. And her response was the washing machine. Right. Because, and think about that. We don't think about that. But Kim, how often have you gone out on the washboard and washed the clothes from the men working out in the field and hung them on the line so they had clean clothes the next day to go work in the field?
Right.
And that's what her thing was. She's like, I was so happy when there was a washing machine that, okay. So these ladies, I just remember specifically one lady, she said, electricity, electricity. And she talked about how they would get so excited, they would jump in their horse and buggy, go down the street to see how far the power pole was, how close it was coming to get electricity to their house.
That is
Don't think
amazing.
about that.
No.
We don't think about that. And so what you're doing, again, I think back, you're talking to your mom and getting the stories from about her parents and her mom and all that. So yeah, that to me, what you're doing is great. I connected with that when you told me what you're doing. So, well, what else? What else? What are some other great things that you suggest? So if somebody wanted to do this, like, because I think it's great. I've told you after hearing that, I think it's time for my mom and my dad and my two brothers, for all of us, because we all have baggage. I don't care who you are. Every family has baggage. Every family has things. And I think it's time for us as a family, for just the five of us to go away and say, and really have that open weekend and do what you guys do. So what advice do you have for somebody that might want to do what you guys do?
Um, I will tell you, we have done so many different things and just kind of let it evolve. So I mentioned a couple of things earlier that I'll mention again, and then just some other helpful hints or just some ideas. But I think the most important thing is to try to keep it as unstructured as possible. We do things like we'll have different rooms set up where it just is conducive to conversation. Like we'll have a place where there's a puzzle table set up where you can sit around and do a puzzle, or let people have their space where people will be sitting around doing crosswords or things like that, but not having a lot of activities planned where there's just downtime to just be, where the TV's not on, there's not something that you're supposed to do. We also we like to do stuff like play games. We'll do a game that just requires us to interact but still allows for you to stop and have conversation. On our Facebook page this time, we ended up playing this silly game called Catchphrase, where you had to guess the word. The point is just to have togetherness.
Yeah.
One year, because we're girls, a couple of cousins brought everybody like their favorite face masks, and so we all were silly and put on these face masks and sat around and did that and took pictures and were silly. I don't know, one of our cousins loves to do nails, and so we sit around and do nails. I mean, these are all girly things, but you can see that the point is
Yeah.
just it's the
Spending time.
togetherness. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
spending quality time, not really doing a whole lot other than just being together. And that means that, does your family like to cook? Do they like to just hang out by the fire? Do they like to bird watch? I mean, we have always picked places that are very conducive to relaxing
Yeah.
and nothingness, whether that's out in nature, or things like that. But the pitfalls have been when we have too much to do, or there's things that you can go that can distract you, if there's places to go and
Yeah.
things to do. So I think that and when people do special little treats, it's really nice. Like one of the things that we love to do is we love to make playlists of music where all the different generations say what their favorite songs are.
Yeah.
Like because some of us are young and some of us are older, so everybody has to tell. One of the people compiles all the favorite songs, and so while we're sitting around just listening and talking and hanging out,
Yeah.
you'll hear music from all different genres.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool. That's cool.
so yeah, so it's kind of fun, right? Because you're
Yeah.
listening to 60s, 40s, rap,
Yeah.
and then eventually the spoons come out or the hairbrushes, and we're all singing our favorite songs, whether
That's
that's
awesome.
whether it's Leonard Skinner or Vanilla Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something that every generation is singing their heart out to. And Sweet Caroline is always one that ends up.
Absolutely.
So
That's
those are
a
just a couple
classic.
of
Yeah.
fun things.
Well, and you had a party, right? One night?
Well, we did this year. The girls had the idea of doing a 80s theme party. And so that was the big to do was the 80s theme party. We knew it was coming, so we all had our costumes. Plus, it was close to Halloween, and because I guess because we were tired of the hairbrushes and there weren't enough egg beaters to go around. My sister amped up her game, and we all had our own microphones for
Huh?
real. So
Yeah.
that was, yeah, that was an epic night with the 80s. There was a couple of rock and rollers, there was a lot of teeny boppers. It was epic night. It was epic.
That's awesome. That's really cool. No, I think it's a great thing, and I don't think that in today's times, we get so focused. I mean, on this is the way it is for us. When it's time to get away, we get away with the core five. The core family. We don't get away with my brothers and their families or my mom and dad because we're so, everybody's so busy. And so I just think it's a great idea and a great thing that you guys are doing because you know, there's two things that we know, and Grayson and I talked about this on our podcast. There's two things, right? We're born and then we're not here one day. And so we're talking about grandparents who unfortunately are not here anymore, but unfortunately we have limited time and we want to be able to spend that time. And where you and I are age wise, we're not getting any younger. Our parents are not getting any younger. And it's so important to just spend that quality time and really get to know, them and get back to your parents and all that. So
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this. If you could think of one of your favorite things about your mom from all of this, what would it be?
From my favorite things about my mom in general, or just from these weekends?
From these weekends that you've learned over time?
One of the things that I have learned about my mom is my mom, when she was growing up, she was just incredibly adventurous, out there, crazy. I mean, she just would go for it.
Yeah.
She fearless, just fearless, live life out loud to the extreme. And I mean, I guess I knew it, not sort of, but no. I mean, like whatever she wanted to do, go after. She went after it full force and just absolutely fearless.
Yeah. That's really cool. You're not like that. I don't
I don't know where I get that from.
think.
I don't know.
Yeah. Where do you get that? That's awesome. All right, Kim. So this is cool. This is one of, like I've tell everybody before, this is one thing one of our podcasts. We're going to keep doing these in the 30 days. I've asked you to come back on, so which is wonderful. So we're going to leave it with this one action item. What can people do to make this happen for them and their family? What would you tell? Like, how can you make this happen?
I would say that you just have to pick a date. Okay, pick a date. What we did to get it started was we put out like 4 or 5 dates, and we said, look, we're going to commit. We're going to pick a month. We're going to put out 4 or 5 dates, and we're going to commit to this. One way or the other, we're going to commit, and we're going to make it happen. And that's what it takes. It takes a deliberate intention that we are going to set aside and make this a priority and make it happen. And we gave everybody lead time to get budgets together to make it happen and all that stuff. So it first starts with a commitment to this is a priority and this is important and we're going to do it. So that's the first step. That's the first step. Give yourself the lead time and make the commitment that it's a priority. It's something that you want to do. And then from there, once you have the date, the second thing that I would say is don't make it too complicated. Don't make it too complicated. Just show up and let it happen.
Yeah. Outstanding advice. Well, Kim, thank you for doing this with me. Again, this is the first of many. I believe in what y'all did, and I think it's really cool. And I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna take your advice and try to set something up with my family. We need it. We need to get away. We need to talk. We need to communicate. I think it's me being the counselor. Hey, who better to do it? So I'm gonna take your advice. So
make it fit for your family. That's what we did, mother-daughter, but make it fit for your family. Maybe it's all of your family. Maybe it's not just your core family, but maybe it's all of your family. Do what works for you.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I agree with that totally. And I think you can expand it. I think we need the core family. I think we do, but then I think it'd be nice to really expand it to not just a core family, but everybody. You know,
Yeah.
it needs to happen. So awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next one. Okay, everybody, like I said before in the lessons learned, make sure you check it out. It'll have all Kim's information. You can follow her on Convene. You can go join her Trailblazers community. But you can also check out her website and follow her on Facebook and all those other things there, which you can find in her profile on Convene. Thanks, Kim.